Hey everybody, welcome on YouTube. I'm Deborah Westbrook, and we are going through this year of 2024 in a curiosity river. I just want to teach on different things lasting for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then move on to the next topic. Why? I love curiosity. Einstein said never lose a holy curiosity, so we're exploring different topics that are led by me intuitively to teach, so welcome. I'm on Facebook Live, so zip ahead a little bit, and we'll join you in a minute. Zip ahead to where we start. Today we're going to talk about Mary Magdalene. We're going to end it up after 4 weeks, and we're going to talk about a metaphysical perspective. We're going to talk about how she integrated parts of quantum realities. I'm going to make it really simple for you. So I hope you're having a great day. It's wonderful here. It's still raining today, which we love when it rains because the super blooms come into bloom. I'm on the central coast of California. Hi, Rita, Saloma, Carita. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. The super blooms are when it rains and all of a sudden we have these blooms of fields that are full of nothing but flowers. They are breathtaking and they take your breath away. They could be yellow, orange, and so it's kind of cool to watch them. So hope you're having a good day. We'll get started. And for those of you catching on the replay, thank you. I always start with a thought before we go on to the next topic. My thought this morning as I was putting something away and I thought to myself, I so value relationships. I so value friendships. And I value friendships that stay with you for the journey, through the ups and through the downs, through the so-called good times, bad times, where you're a little erratic, where you're a little stable, those friends that stay with you. And I realized I like those type of people very much in my life as opposed to the catch-all people, that they just want to catch up and then they don't want to really know what's going on in your life. And those are acquaintances, and that's good. But I've learned to differentiate the honor and respect that I give those people that have followed me along on my journey. Things I don't post about, but I thank you. And I you know who you are, so thank you very much. So let's get started. Here's the next series I want to do. I want to start in a couple weeks from today, and I want to call it Intuitive Resolve, A Path of Freedom. And what I want to talk about is what's challenged my life. This intuition that has approached itself to me, and I have followed the path, contrary to popular belief, contrary to what other people believe. I've been courageous to follow a path that has evolved into being authentically me. So what are the belief systems that I've left and the belief systems I've gathered? How have I done that? So I call it Intuitive Resolve, because it'll start in a couple weeks, and it's going to be very personal beliefs that, like abundance. What does that mean? Freedom. What does that mean? What does integrated spirituality mean? What does it mean deconstructing from religion? And how did that apply to me? How does it apply to you? And I want to do it intuitively every week, perhaps bring a couple of friends on for a podcast that we'll celebrate together and talk. And I want to do it with resolve and show you how that births the freedom of authenticity in your life. So intuitive means to acquire knowledge without conscious reasoning. Sometimes I was led on a path to follow that didn't make sense, but I kept going. Resolve means to decide firmly on a course of action. Through curiosity and through expansion, I was able to follow along this path that I didn't know was going to bring me into such a freedom where I am having such incredible peace and joy that it's unable to truly be explained. So I had to forego the narrative of religion, forego the narrative of Christianity, forego the narrative of government and wars, forego the narrative that only one nation dictates the nations of the world. And so many of my belief systems tumbled. So we're going to talk about that in a couple weeks. But today, I want to talk about a topic that I love. I was a science math major in education in university. I love science. I love math. That's how I think. So we're going to talk about ending it all with looking at the metaphysical perspectives of Mary Magdalene. She taught in a way where she acquired a gnosis, or a deep knowledge of things that went beyond the narrative of religion. And she moved in a wisdom path, a mystical path, a path of consciousness in direct opposition to the guys of the time that were moving in more of a 3D reality. I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to go slow because I want you to understand. So stay with me. I'm not going to be in a hurry. This may last 50 minutes or so, but I want to conclude with an understanding that will help you expand and enlarge your perspective on your spirituality. So Mary's gospel, as we've said in the previous 3 videos, was ignored, hidden, ignored by the patriarchy for one, by a lack of religion wanting any metaphysical consciousness perspective on reality. They wanted to provide a dualistic application, which meant we'll talk about that heaven, hell, saved, unsaved, us, them. And it formed just a 3D reality of religion. And it started when they started to ignore the Gnostic Gospels and started to ignore Mary Magdalene, Thomas, Philip, many. So what happened is she had an inner gnosis, which means an inner divine knowledge. And that gnosis grew from the essence of her being by following Jesus through his whole path. And she didn't look at him with a physical reality always. She looked at him with a metaphysical perspective, especially when she connected with him in the imaginal realm. What does that say to us today? It means that spirituality is expanding beyond any one belief system. There's very good beliefs in many of ancient wisdom and many that is being taught today. I don't discount the Bible. I just don't read it that much anymore, except to go where it's supposed to go. So there is many ways to expand upon this, and you have to be intuitive. You have to be courageous. You have to leave the system, and then the system has to leave you. So John Wheeler, he's a physicist, and he said this: no phenomenon is a real phenomenon unless it is an observed phenomenon. So the essence given to Mary was that she followed Jesus. However you look at Jesus, you look at him realistically or allegorically. She followed him from the moment of her healing. She was not a prostitute. From the moment of her healing, she followed him in a journey to his ascension, yet she was ignored in the book of Acts and acted like she wasn't there. So quantum shows us that we do create our reality, that we, through observation, and we'll talk about that again in the days ahead when I go into this Intuitive Resolve series, that there is a level of observing things and then manifesting what you observe that comes from the reality of the field. Mary did this. She walked in a metaphysical perspective. She walked in a level of consciousness that was higher than the guise at the time that was necessary to understand the cosmos. She was able to understand past her physical vision, and that's why she was able to connect with Jesus in the imaginal realm, and it changed her life. She no longer sought to move ahead through a 3D reality of building and challenging and us versus them and preaching salvation. She walked in a reality where she ascended in consciousness. And it was a state of being aware. Her awareness increased. She perceived things differently. That's why the guys said to ignore her, that she was saying things that, would Jesus have told her these things? And how come we don't understand these things? Because she rose in consciousness. And that is what's happening now across the planet as people are relinquishing the old narratives of religion, leaving them entirely and entering into a place of being no thing in order to remember what they were and who they are in this moment of time going forward, not going back. So the question I had, and I'm going to go a little bit off a little bit now till I get back on track, but I was studying this and I had this question. It just came to me. And I thought, having been in ministry for so many years, and it brought me to this place, I wondered, why in the hell do we devote so much time to listening to one man dictate the way we're supposed to believe? And I'm talking about Paul. I'm talking about, why would anybody give it into so much credence in the New Testimony with one man who supposedly never saw Jesus, but yet Mary and James, the brother of Jesus, were totally not acknowledged? So then I had a thought, why is it when I used to read the book of Ephesians and Colossians, I always felt that the energy was never quite there, that it went to a certain space? So I want to give you a little aside today, because it's just something I was thinking, then I'll get back on track. So I Googled and I found these answers. Paul was a Roman who never met Jesus and whose job was to persecute early Christians prior to his supposed conversion while traveling on the road to Damascus. In other words, a total outsider and former enemy of Christians came in and hijacked the entire enterprise. They left out Mary, they left out James, they ignored Thomas, they ignored Philip, but they took this guy who maybe was using the system to propagate 2/3 of the New Testament, and everybody's believing one man with a reality that never quite cut it, in my opinion. So one must wonder why Paul, who profited from persecuting Christians prior to his supposed conversion, was he a con man? Part of me says, maybe I wouldn't use those terms, but part of me says, forget the New Testament. Read the Gospels from the perspective of the metaphysical reality of Jesus, go to Revelation, and forget all the rest, because a lot of it is based on an illusion and a lie. And this is then what was said of Paul. Isn't it likely that this total outsider realized he could exploit the group he was tasked with persecuting, knowing he could have more influence this way? Wouldn't it make sense for this man, whose works included arresting Christians, to change rules so that it was focused on works, not belief? Because it is works that is in a 3D reality, which most of religion is moving in right now. It's never a metaphysical reality of beliefs and thought processes and your ability to manifest from the field. Furthermore, James's story, Philip's story, Thomas's story, Mary's story was all ignored. That shows, excuse me, but this is my life. I want to just say some things that I have hidden for a long time because I'm neither angry nor outraged. But Christianity is built on lies and illusion. Why would anybody give that much credence to one book that anchors you down into a 3D reality rather than rising in the metaphysical reality? Why do you think that they excluded Mary when John Wheeler, the physicist, says no phenomenon is a real phenomenon unless it is an observed phenomenon? So Christianity on the whole now throughout the United States, Western Christianity tries to capture your observation, and they try to focus it on a duality, on a linear duality of cause and effect. So religion is indoctrination on one book. Do you get a university degree from reading one book? Can you be a doctor from reading one book? Can you be a lawyer from reading one book? Yet you allow one book to dictate the essence of your path. And then you make excuses for it, and you follow along in the narrative simply because you've been played and you've been brought into an ignorance. Do you know that you're more than any one book or any one religious dogma or any one reality can say who you are? And this is why they've tried to shut everything down. So what do I think is happening today? I think what's happening today is the same thing that happened, and Mary will get to the exact words of her gospel in a minute. I believe our awareness is increasing in the same way that quantum physicists challenged classical physics. Now stay with me, okay? You're not in a science class, you're not in a math class. Let me make it easy for you. So classical physics was good up until its time. It came against the ridiculousness of the church in the Renaissance. And it said, you're telling me to believe things that have no credibility, and yet you're telling me to believe them. So they went another way, and they said, I'm only going to follow what I believe. And I'm going to have laws that dictate the reality of the universe at the macroscopic level. Gravity, energy. And they were stuck there for so long that there came a division almost of church and state, which isn't a bad thing. And the church sat in its 3D realm, and classical physics sat in its 3D realm. Then a revolution happened, and quantum came along and challenged the narrative, and many people denied the narrative. Mary didn't. They challenged the narrative of that everything that is real is only what you can see. And quantum started going deeper and deeper below the subatomic level, looking at the subatomic particles and looking how they influence things on a microscopic level. What does that mean? Are you only matter? Is this all you are? Is your incarnation only that which you can see? Are you only your body? Or is the integration of quantum principles integrated within your being to help you rise in consciousness to know what? To know that I'm more than what Big Pharma tells me about my health. I am greater than any transhumanist agenda that says I should augment my biology with technology. I am greater than a government that tries to control me by supplying the answer like a divine father. Thank God we're realizing this is no longer true. Am I greater than the reality that I perceive with my natural eyes? Yes, absolutely. So the very thing that quantum physics challenged classical physics was the integration of certain things, meaning that yes, there is gravity. Yes, there are macroscopic realities. You throw a ball, it's going to fall. You jump off of a building, you're probably going to fall. But there's a greater reality of perception and observation and entanglement and oneness that we need to live the life in the world, but not of the world. And that is the integration of science and spirituality. That is what the guys never saw. That is what Mary saw. She saw the integration, the metaphysical perspective of knowing Jesus at a higher level and not just dealing in this realm. And she was ignored and displaced. So we're facing a revolution right now, an awakening of people. Don't get angry. Don't deconstruct forever. Just leave it. Just leave it and start going in the realm and start exploring an integrated spirituality coming from many different sources that go into your consciousness where you have these aha moments of being divinely human. So this shift of quantum coming when classical physics was there upended the narrative that people are used to. And in the subatomic world, that which we can't see, quantum explains realities, whereas classical physics has a better definition for a macroscopic world. It seems to me Jesus was imparting to Mary the essence of the integration of every quantum principle. It's not enough that you know you're in the world. It's not enough to think of salvation as walking an altar call. It's not enough to only deal with works upon works upon works and networks and building without the essence of teaching people the consciousness. It is the integration of being in the world but not of it. It is in the integration of being divinely human. And in the next series, because this is the last on Mary Magdalene, I've called it Intuitive Resolve, a Path to Freedom. What is it that changed my life? I didn't disregard everything I came from. I just started walking in a new path and left certain things behind. Now, let's get to Mary. I am such a math science nerd. I'm reading The Biology of Belief right now by Bruce Lipton, and it is blowing me away about how I am my biology. We'll talk about that in Intuitive Result. I do, through gratitude, can change the very essence of my health and how we've been lied to. It is astounding what true scientific principles from people that are consciously, spiritually aware are bringing into our midst right now in ways that the mainstream media and tech is ignoring. But when we follow this path with intuitive resolve, we wake up one morning and we know that we don't have to buy the narrative. I am divinely human. I am in the essence of who I am. So let's look at Mary. We're going to start, this is going to end, I'm going to take main passages. So Mary says this in her gospel. She's talking and she says, what's matter? Will it last forever? What is matter? Will it last forever? And the teacher says, all that is born, all that is created, all the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. All that is composed shall be decomposed. You can't get much more metaphysical. There are so many quantum realities in those few sentences than I've ever read through the interpretation of what was presented to me in a duality of Christianity. So Jesus had something to say about the fundamental nature of the world and of humanness. Over and over, I keep thinking of being in the world and not of the world, because you see, Sometimes you have to pick up truth based upon subtle nuance. It doesn't yell at you. It doesn't shout at you. It doesn't try to convince you. It is an intuitive knowing that you begin to follow the path. And I have followed that path now for a year of just focusing on, if he meant what he said, of being in the world and not of the world, then we do not define ourselves by anything other than being I am one, I am all, and everything that flows from that flows from my divinity in the field through my humanity in this experience that I'm having in space-time. So Jesus taught the reintegration of humans with Source, with God, in oneness, not duality. Again, what does duality means? It's cause and effect. You're looking through the world through the lens of not being one. It is always something out there. That's what causes wars. That's what causes division. That's what causes the need to convert people to your belief system. It is a duality that it is how you perceive things, and yet Jesus perceived everything through oneness. And that is something that you can teach on forever, but it is something that you have to experience. Mary experienced this oneness, and that was why she never tried to prove anything. She didn't try to capture an audience. She didn't try to build a network. She relied on the wisdom within her to move her forward in a path of light. So the guy that wrote the book, which most of my studies have come from, I reference the books because I'm using facts from these books and thoughts from these books. I'm not going to take credit for being so original that I know all this. Jean-Yves Leloup on the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and Cynthia Bourgeot, the Gospel of Mary. Okay, so these are thoughts that are progressing, that flow from what I read, that just rise up in me. So Leloup is talking about that the original word these words salvation and savior were meant to focus on a 3D narrative that put us in time and tried to help us ascend out of that back into our divinity. But that's not true, because we're one. And what that salvation is wholeness. And you don't need a savior. I am my savior. And what I'm being saved from is my ignorance and my forgetfulness and my lack of remembering that I am one in Source, and my destination is my incarnation right now in a very special moment in time to display the creative expression of who I am, to help people rise and ascend. So salvation is not based on duality where you have to do something to achieve something. That's quantum physics that doesn't flow in the path of metaphysical realities. It flows from I am already that. Let me awaken and rise in that knowledge. Whereas what I was led to believe was there was always cause and effect. This is the duality of religion. This is the duality that is not metaphysical quantum perspectives. It says if you walk an aisle, raise your hand, you are saved. 1 minute you're going to hell, the next minute you're going to heaven. Or what about tithing? If you give 10%, you're going to benefit. You will reap what you sow. And all those belief systems were used to control the narrative to keep you locked in a lower consciousness. Why? Ignorance, fear, making money, greed, narcissism. I mean, there are good-meaning people out there, but still being locked in that narrative is ignorance. Even though they're well-meaning and they love people, they're still locked in the narrative where when push comes to shove, they're still going to choose that path. So that's just something to think about. So salvation is knowledge of the truth that sets one free. What is the truth? I am. I am one in God, just as Jesus was one in God. There is no separation. That's a quantum principle called entanglement. I am not separated from people in China. I am not separated from people in Russia. I am not separated from people in Gaza. I don't have to follow all that. I am one. This narrative that this country is trying to prove is tribalism. I'm not separate from you. I may differ from you in gender, in age, race, color, but I am one with you. And it can't be perpetuated based upon division. We've got to rise up and say, no more. I will not comply. So the reality is there's nothing to be saved from. There is no need for a savior. But to promote a savior means you promote a narrative that keeps people sitting in a pew, never rising in their brilliance, only acknowledging a lower reality. This is entanglement. It is a quantum principle. It has been proven by science. It is the detection of a twin state and its response instantaneously in 3D time. Separate those particles, those photons, those particles at incredible distances. Ignite one in some way, movement, and the other one spontaneously at the exact moment without any hesitation also responds. This is a divine entanglement that is so essential to our spirituality and the uniting of the planet, because it keeps me from looking at you through a lens that says, I'm better than you, I know more than you, it's us versus them. It fosters the beauty of creative expression in the individual incarnation into this planet. So when you're saved, when you move into wholeness, you're free of attachments, and you don't identify anything that takes away the essence of your being. And don't deconstruct forever. You don't have to build a ministry on deconstruction. Break free, stand in that open field, and go in the direction that you're supposed to go. This is what Jesus was saying. All the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. So there is no fear of death. It says all that is composed shall be decomposed. Honey, you don't die. There's such a fear. They're trying to keep you from, I was watching a show the other day, and at every break, every single break, there was an announcement of a new medication that you need to take to somehow make you whole. But the reality is that most physicians only work from a fragmented reality. And I see this all the time. Roberto had a kidney transplant. He's got the best doctors in the world, but they're still working from the perspective of only what they see. There is no integration that your health is affected by your emotions, that your being is affected by your environment. And in this Bruce Lipton book, he shows about how Bruce Lipton's exact word says there is no cure, there is no genetic cancer. Cancer is not based upon genetics. It is based upon the response of our cells to receptors of the environment. And they've shown this is entanglement, folks, within the reality of our consciousness, not needing anything to divine us. I'll talk about that because it's changing my health. So the entanglement means also all that is composed shall be decomposed. There's no death. You don't die. You never die. How can you die? You always were. You always are in the I am. Now, what goes on after you pass, after your body decomposes into energy? These are my opinions, okay? You may not believe this. I'm good if you don't, but this is what I think. I like to read books by David Icke. He is revolutionary, radical, and crazy, but I like to glean. And he said something once about reincarnation that inside myself, I just went, yes. And he talked about how the white light that you see when people die and they're told, go back, reincarnate again, is all bullshit. That what it is it's a process of the simulation, however you believe the simulation is run, to bring you back into the reality. And guess what? You don't even remember when you come back. So he talks about going past the light into a higher state of reality, which is called the prime reality. I don't believe God wants me to come back reconstructing over and over and over again. I will verbally state that I am open to change my mind, but I do not believe in reincarnation. I believe when you have those memories are coming from programs in the subconscious that are telling you you were this, you were this, you were this. I, Deborah, you, Kay, you, Tanya, are in time for such a time as this. I don't have to come back and repeat it. What kind of God wants me to redo things? The divine mind has embedded me with potential and set me into time for such a time as this. I may decompose and I don't know what's next. What is in my ascension? Do I have a glorious body? Do I have a new type of body? I don't know, but I'm not going to think about it because I'm not there. But I do not fear death, and neither should you. That means that the fear of death is the last vestige to be conquered. Perfect love casts out fear. Get rid of your fear of death. Stop listening to whatever's out there telling you. Listen to your body. Listen to your heart. Listen to your mind. Intuitively follow with resolve into your freedom. And that's where I'm going in 4 weeks, for 4 weeks in a couple weeks. So now, then Jesus says, after he says that, he says, everything returns to its roots. Matter returns to the origins of matter. Those who have ears, let them hear. I'll repeat that. Everything returns to its roots. Matter returns to the origins of matter. What's the origins of matter? Energy. However, that's going to manifest when people have, and I'm not talking about near-death experiences. I believe those are different. You choose to come back in the same body. But what you experience, I've never experienced one, but the ones that I've read that people experience, they are caught up in such a divine love, such a divine essence of oneness that they can't even explain it. So even though you do decompose, you're going back into your origin. You're not going to be lost forever in an unknown reality. And so when we remember our roots, we are gathering all our fragments into wholeness. It's proven that most children, by the time I believe they're 6 or 7, lose all essence of creativity because education in the United States was founded on indoctrination. It's very clear. Do the research. Who started the educational system? There is no freedom in the educational system. There can be, and it's worse now. So it was started on indoctrination of building factory workers and attributing to them a hive mind mentality. So most children, by the time they reach 7, they're told to sit, be still, and if you move too much, well, they're going to give you medication for HD, DD, or the hyper stuff. They're always going to find something wrong with you, and they're doing it to this day. So we remember all our fragmentation. This is how I remembered. I integrated all my experiences to return to the roots of my I am. How did I do that? I didn't avoid looking at everything I was going through, all the pain and all the suffering and all the trials. I didn't always label everything to be a trauma victim. Do I believe trauma is real? Yes, but there's healing. You don't have to go on about it and base a victim mentality on being a trauma reality because you're healed, you're whole. Look carefully at your anger, at your fears, at your fear of death. Look carefully at your rejection, at your insecurities. Look close in the eye and have it show you the healing that is needed in your heart. That is how I took all the fragments of my life and am still taking them to gather them into the wholeness of the awareness of the foundational aspect of I am. I have an untapped connection and potential in the divine mind. And to return does not mean to go back. It doesn't mean to go back and constantly live at what happened and put down stakes. That's not how you help people. You help people by being authentic with them, giving them options to heal. And if they don't want to heal, you let them go. You can't change their mind. Okay, but as for me, I chose to be creative through this next series I'm going to talk about called Intuitive Resolve. I went the way that was finely tuned for me, and I took everything in my past and I integrated it into a new birth. And that new birth is called an amalgamation. And it is an awakening place. It was unable to be grasped by the mind. And I have talked to people about this, Tanya being one of them. We reach a point of no thing. And we're so used to having to have a goal, having to have a purpose. But as you begin to defragment yourself, as you begin to pull yourself into wholeness, rather than getting a purpose put before you, you're suddenly standing in a field with all these fragments and you do not know how to put them together. That is the essence of healing, not letting your ego sit there, but slowly but surely, because of patience, because of silence, because of meditation, they slowly start coming together and they start creating a place of nothingness, a place of knowing you are no thing, births the divine I am in you, and that is without words. I will never be able to explain. I can give you some words about my passions, but there are moments when I'm driving in the car and I look at a tree, or I look at the ocean, or I look at a child, or I think about my life and tears just start to flow. These are tears that are the buildup of my own heart, knowing how divinely brilliant I am, how I am in time for such a time as this. And it comes from a deep gnosis and knowing, and this is what Mary was. So there's a verse that says, through God all things came into being. Not one thing came into being except through God. So we are embedded through the field in the divine mind, and that is potential, not possibility. It's not maybe. It's not maybe in the field. It is in the field. It is in the divine mind. And I say this every week. You access that through coherence of the heart. What is the potential? What am I to manifest in this realm? What am I going to manifest through intuition, through intention? What is it that is specially designated for me to manifest on this planet? So then Jesus says, those with ears, let him hear. So Mary is saying, those with ears, what does that mean? It is a contemplative intelligence that arises from wonder. Folks, we're so grounded, we're boring. The F-blob leadership in this nation of both sides are trying to pin us down in every way possible to fear and indecision. And yet we have lost a sense of awe and wonder. What do you think technology is trying to do? You think kids that put on virtual glasses are gonna enjoy nature when they've been bred to believe that the virtual is so exciting and can't look at an ocean and see the beauty and wonder of creation, the beauty and wonder of animals, the beauty and wonder of our life? There is a planned agenda to this, and I study this extensively. I have no regards for this. I have no respect for this. Why is that? Because the tech people that are creating this have no sense of spirituality and consciousness, and they're only doing it with giving you a sense of awe and wonder, but they're doing it out of greed and narcissism. Where's the awe and wonder in our lives? When was the last time we met outside? Do you know, I saw a show the other day, I think Carol and Miss was saying that we connect with our virtual reality before we even connect with our physical reality. The first thing we do is reach for our phones. I look at restaurants, everybody's on their phones, nobody's talking. I won't do it. I won't do it anymore. I will not comply. I go into grocery stores and I ask people questions. I check out at Trader Joe's and I saw this young guy and I said to him, I said, how old are you? He says, guess. I said, 29, 30. He says, I'm 25. I said, so how's life? He says, well, it sucks. And I said, hard living in California? He said, yeah. I said, and then I told him some other things, which I'll talk about in my next series. But I'm listening to more and more 20s and 30s and 40-year-olds struggling just to make ends meet because they're trying to force us into a narrative. They've lost a sense of belief, of innovation, and it is our responsibility. Those of us over 60, forget the boomer bullshit, okay, that everything was so perfect. And, I'll go into this. What am I trying to say? It is my responsibility as I turn 70 in June to help these young people realize they're brilliant and to fight the narrative, to just believe the narrative that they are beautiful and they can be all they're called to be. That's another topic. So those with ears, with a contemplative intelligence, It's a feeling inside for the infinite open. It's those with ears. You can't hear it if you're locked down into a narrative of 3D. The real unveils for those who take the time to hear. That is where the real unveils for those who take the time to observe, and then the observation of hearing. It is a rising of our senses. Those who can endure and fully listen to the silence of the fathomless vacuum before us will finally be able to hear it speak. I hope this is making sense. A few more things. All right, then it says in the gospel, I'm picking and choosing verses. Peter says to Jesus, since you have become the interpreter of the elements, Jesus, and the events of the world, then tell us, what is the sin of the world? And the teacher says, there's no sin. Look at Peter's question. If I was standing in front of this person, I wouldn't ask, well, geez, define sin. Define this for me so I can comprehend it in my dualistic mindset. No, guys, Mary entered into the silence of the total progression of her walk with Jesus. Never so much putting in her input as much as she just observed and she saw and she moved until the imaginal realm. When she saw him in a vision, there came a divine knowing. But look at Peter's question. Well, let's see what Jesus answers to that question. Is human nature tainted with original sin? Absolutely not. Does our existence begin in Adam? No, that's a lie too. Sin is not inherent in people, in things, nor is it any element of the cosmos, nor of human nature. It goes against divine entanglement. It is now, can we move in a lower vibrational energy if we define sin as missing the mark and missing the mark from the reality of our wholeness? If we look at our fragmentation and we move in ego, are we, quote, sinning? Yes, if it mistakes our identity and we move in that realm of a mistaken identity. So it's not inherent in me. So matter, the world, our body is not sinful, yet it is possible in this incarnation to make use of ego flowing through a lower vibrational reality of fear. What do you think's all around us right now? Of an ego that somebody outside of ourselves can fix it. So we are sinners to the degree that we do not know how to adjust or harmonize ourselves in, as, and through God. But sin not being the component of evilness in anyone. It's a great way to make money, folks. It's a great way for religion to make money by promoting a product that they they create the product and then they create the answer. This is the proverbial they. The government creates the problem and then they create the answer. A tech creates the problem and then they create the answer. Big Pharma creates the problem and then it creates the answer. Religion creates the problem and then it creates the answer. That is exactly what goes on. So sin is just disharmony. So reinterpret that. It is disunity. But I don't even use that word anymore because if it's used in a religious context, that's what only people know. It's a lower level of awareness. It's not reaching high enough outside of this reality to know that you're in time, but you're not of time. So it is also caused, get this, Lelou says it's caused by the impoverishment of our imagination. Our imagination has become needy. It has become dependent. It is being wiped out. It is being denied. It is being decimated. And it is our imagination and creativity that needs to be healed because that contributes to wholeness. We need art. We need music. We need nature. We need reality in the beauty of people. We need all of that. Those are not byproducts. Those are the way into the imagination and into the unifying of our consciousness. So when our imagination is impoverished, then it fits perfectly in a narrative of a religious setting because it's denigrated. It's pulled down that you're nothing, like Yuval Noah Harari says. and I will paraphrase. He's the prophet of the World Economic Forum. He totally believes in transhumanism. He says, oh, we're going to just be replaced in so many years. They're not kidding. They're not kidding, folks. They're not kidding, folks. They're not kidding, folks. They mean to try to do this. They want you connected, augmented with an internal biology, with nanobots inside of you, and they're currently doing it to take away from your divinity and your humanity. We're hackable animals, according to Yuval. We're hackable. We don't mean that much. Well, that destroys imagination. Then a virtual reality slips in and says, well, ain't nothing shitty. Everything's going on here. I'll just put on my glasses and I'll escape. Imagination is dealing with the consciousness of the field through your heart and through your mind. A virtual reality brings you into a nothingness that doesn't engage your heart and doesn't engage your mind at all. It is a false reality. So when you impoverish the imagination through education, through a religion, in any way, you're going to bring a person down to just accepting a dual reality. So it is you that, it says in the Gospel of Mary, it says, it is you who makes sin exist when you act according to the habit of your corrupt nature, for this is where sin lies. Well, do I have a corrupt nature? Let's define corrupt. It is a second nature imposed upon our true and innocent condition. It is a corrupt nature that is a second nature superimposed upon our true and innocent condition. This is the power of the simulation. And I've been studying a lot about this. This is a scientific reality. The simulation wants to tell you that you lack. I just told you what Yuval and all of them say. You're corrupted. You're not whole. You lack something. But hey, we can come in and solve the problem. So corrupted means taking things and making it an absolute belief. And that's exactly the path that humanity, there's a force working right now. You can call it Weedico virus, which is, it is an evil force that has existed through all of ancient wisdom. An excellent book by Paul Levy called Weedico. It describes it in the narrative that some people are playing the game. Oh gosh, there's so much to say, I won't even go there. So the Gospel of Mary is addressed to adults who have integrated the law in themselves. And it is not a barrier to the movement of life and the inspiration of the essence of our being. Like the wind, it fills the sails of our truest desires and calls one to the freedom of open spaces. So there are laws, but let's redefine law. Law is not religious based upon a duality that it's this way or no way. Law are a set of inner beliefs that you will come into my life this far and no further. I will choose the path for my life. I will stand in love and courage and allow myself to define myself without anger, without excuses, without attention. And I will put this boundary that is beautiful around me that doesn't control me, but increases my authenticity. In other words, I do not have to be everything to everybody. But I do have to move in a love energy. But sometimes love is challenging. Sometimes love is strong. Love is powerful. It doesn't always tell you what you want to hear. So this as adults, we're seeing this more and more and more, that there is a law around me. One of the laws right now, I told you at the beginning of the podcast, I don't want acquaintances. I have a lot of them, but I want friends who are going to follow me on the journey. Tanya, Kathleen, I communicate with them daily sometimes. Lisa, Kat, they're part of my existence here. And along the journey, they show me that I let them in. The law of my being says I'm going to let in people who are going to love me unconditionally, challenge me when I'm wrong, stand with me when I'm hurting. That is that there are laws described in my life, and they're not malleable. No, you're not going to override my boundaries. There's a lot of things that I've learned about myself. That's coming next series. So let's end with this. God has come into your midst, the good has come into your midst to act together with the elements of your nature to reunite it with its roots. We become no thing, living in awe and wonder of our creative manifestation in time, in our incarnation. We are immortal and we are divine, and death is an identification with a mortal body when in actuality I am divine, having a human experience, and I will pass on. So do my acts express my word? Do my words express my manifestation? Does my act or my word express my thought? Does my thought express my desire? Does my desire express my being? Does my being express the being that is what it is, the I am that calls me to be? So let's end with harmony. Mary's Gospel, another section says, be in harmony. If you are out of balance, take inspiration from the manifestations of your true nature. Those who have ears, let him hear. Harmony is a conscious and loving relationship with the now. Not the past, not the future. It is the now, accessing the field to be in harmony with living the way you are called to live, being who you are called to be. You are to enter into resonance with what is going on right now. You have to be able to discern. You cannot avoid what we're seeing right now and what we will see over the course of this year, which I am of the firm belief that you haven't seen anything yet as far as chaos, unless you listen to the mainstream media and then everything's going good, or our F-blob government, which says, oh no, things are going well. We know that's not true. We know that's not true. So I have to be aware of that when I'm surrounded by all these indications that want me to disharmonize with myself. And I have to enter into the resonance to be in tune with that, but then that's trying to create disharmony. But look carefully, observe, and rise up in a greater consciousness. When your life is out of tune, take inspiration from the manifestations of your true nature, from the images of your true nature, from the imaginal realm of reality, a higher consciousness of connection, to be intuitive and to accept the synchronicities, which leaves me into this. We're done with Mary Magdalene. I haven't even scratched the surface. There are people that have spent their whole lives studying this, and it's incredible. Well, that's not me. That's not a Gemini, actually. Truthfully. I mean, some of the characteristics, just the characteristics, when I started owning some of my characteristics, I realized that I like to keep flowing. I like to keep moving. I'll do all the work, and I'll present you with things that help you show you're brilliant, and I'll be right there to back you up. And when you challenge me saying I'm not, I'm going to say that's a lie. So this next series, I'll end. What am I going to do? I'm going to take a week off. Easter's coming up. And then I'm going to start something that came to me in the car when I was driving. And I want to call it Intuitive Resolve, a Pathway to Freedom. Why am I getting free? Why am I moving in my authenticity? Why am I so excited to do these Facebook Lives? No matter who listens, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to produce an audience. I'm not trying to be an influencer. In fact, when I saw people started watching, I kind of backed away and went, whoa, like, do I want to be that real? And then I realized at 70, honey, yeah, there's nothing to prove and nothing to lose. 70 today is a whole lot different than 70 years ago. I don't feel it at all. I feel young. And you know why? I hang out with younger people. I don't want the boomer over 55 thing. I don't want it. So I want to talk about the intuitive resolve. What is the intuition? It's to acquire knowledge without conscious reasoning. I felt that I had to rely that even though everything was telling me to go this way, everything was telling me that I was going to lack finances, and this was going to happen, and I was no more going to be able to do this. I had to tap into my intuition with intention and have a resolve. And resolve means to decide firmly on a course of action I couldn't change. I had to go this way because, listen, I think that I have enough knowledge in me that I can make you all hear what you want to hear. And those who knew I was BSing would leave, but a lot of people would stay, and I could make it work. I could use all the right words and the shallow applications, but that's not me. I am a challenger because I believe in people so much that I won't go back. So I had to have a resolve with me that said, finally, okay, here I am at this moment in time. Everything 150% in my life shifted in 2019. It wasn't just the death of my husband. It was everything that followed. I can't even go back there because I can't even relate. My life has shifted. So I had to pick up an intuitive resolve, which has not been easy. And some of the things that I've learned, I'm going to share with you. What have I learned about abundance? What does it mean? Can I get what I need? Can I intend for above and beyond what I feel that I have? Can I believe in the freedom? What about when I'm challenged? Do I have the courage? Do I have the ability to critically think past shallow issues? Do I have the ability to leave the bullshit behind that's being pushed on us in the insanity that we're in and stay true to what I believe is inner truth? It put me on a path not of trying to prove anything. It put me on a path of great joy and great peace, because after really looking even at the triggers that started in childhood, I knew that I had to look at everything and keep moving forward. And that's what I've done this whole year. These whole years is moving forward. And I had to forego the narrative of anybody or anything telling me who I am, while at the same time having God bring people into my life that spoke into my life. And a good friend of mine, and you know who you are, said to me, I've noticed you kind of get triggered real fast and then you go from a high to a real low. And I went, yeah. Why do I do that? Because all of a sudden I'm seeing something that I need healing in. And that trigger of dropping real fast puts me in a time of meditation where then God gently speaks and will show within me a vision or a point of reference that this is what happened. But I had to be open of my own insecurities, my own inadequacies, my own quirks, my own weirdness, and enter into the reality of who I am. So this is a new path for me. So I hope you'll join me. So now, thank you. When I get to the end of this, I have such a great gratitude. And sometimes I don't even listen to what I've just said because I don't want to critique myself. Because I know that I'm brilliant, but I talk too fast. I know my own quirks. And so I acknowledge everything about myself is beautiful, everything. And so when I get off of these, I face the reality of moving forward and facing everything of who I am. And that's what I want to do. When I say I believe in you, I do. When I say I believe in you, I do. But I will never not challenge you. So I want you all to have a great week. If you celebrate Easter, have a good Easter. And in 2 weeks from today, I'll start this, and it's going to be intuitively led. I'm going to take time in meditation to see what it is I'm supposed to do next. And what can I help you with? So thank you for listening from the bottom of my heart. Please, just be you. I don't know how else to say it. Just be you. You don't want to be anybody else. You'll never get satisfaction. I am the quirkiest. You don't live with me. You don't know. I have a friend on my Facebook page. She's a Gemini, and she posted a post the other day that said, we are the only people that in the midst of a conversation can zip in another direction and come back to where we were going. Well, when I do that with Roberto, he looks at me, he goes, weren't you just talking about this? And I'm like, uh-huh. He says, but now you're talking about this. I'm like, uh-huh. So I'll get back, but just let me be me. And I always tell people, just let me process, because it is in my processing that I find my healing. So let's embark on a new journey. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'll look at the comments later because I love to see. You get it, Zil. You get it. So I'll look at the comments. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Love you.